This is Swiss and Chips, your British guide to Switzerland. Hello and welcome to Swiss and Chips. I'm Jo.
And I'm Simon.
And in case you're listening for the first time, a little bit about us. I'm a broadcast journalist from the UK who moved to Switzerland nearly 14 years ago. In 2022, I became Swiss, and we've got a whole mini-series about that, by the way. Anyhow, I live together with Simon. He grew up in a small mountain village in the German-speaking part of Switzerland, and together we have a wonderful tri-national daughter. Every few weeks on this podcast, we talk about the highs and lows of moving to a new country, funny misunderstandings, sometimes they're not that funny, between the Swiss and the Brits, and the dark and bright sides of living in Switzerland. And if you haven't yet, join the Swiss and Chips community for some additional content and member chat. You can subscribe for free on swissandchips.com.
Yes, and now after this powerful introduction, what's the topic of today?
We're going to talk about a burning issue, an issue that's so close to my heart that it hurts.
Queuing.
Queuing.
Yes, queuing. More specifically, Swiss queuing. The culture, shall I say, of Swiss queuing.
Oh, goodness me.
A Swiss queuing culture, SQC. We should have this on a t-shirt.
Yes.
We could say, like as you said in your introduction, the highs and lows of Swiss queuing.
Swiss queuing is definitely a low.
Right. So to begin with, there was a story in 2015.
There was an international outrage.
Yes, still burned into my Swiss heart.
Yes.
Susie Levine.
Yeah.
She was the US ambassador
to Switzerland.
Yes, and she went skiing in my home village where I grew up, Adelboden, a beautiful small mountain village with snow-covered trees. She went there invasive skiing.
Invasive skiing? What does that mean?
She came and over our nice, innocent village and then complained afterwards on Facebook that the people there cannot queue.
Oh, hang a second. You agreed with her, didn't you?
Well, you know.
Hang on, has our whole relationship been based on a lie?
No, it's true. So what happens, she went skiing there. Afterwards, she posted on Facebook, I had a great time, but basically, people can't queue in Switzerland. It was a complete mess. Mm-hmm. And then, was quite an outrage. It's soon 10 years ago, and still I can remember.
Yeah, me too. I was like, that was the great queue outrage of the century.
Yeah, can you?
Can I what? Queue?
Yes, sorry. Can you name an experience similar to that? That's why, whenever there is a queue in Britain or in Switzerland, the topic comes up automatically.
Let's put it like this. It's a big culture clash issue.
Yes,
because
me, queue hater, you, queue lover.
I don't think you're a queue hater anymore. I should say, though, that British people, we know how to queue. It's ingrained. And if someone violates the queue system, they're going to get told off.
Yes, but you
no matter
love
who it
to
is.
queue, even if there is no need for a queue.
But whenever there is a need, and we won't queue unless there's a need, everybody, falls into line and does that because we understand why.
You find a way to queue.
It supports the basic units of humanity. And in this situation where the US ambassador was just in a sort of mass throng of people fighting to be the first people onto the ski lift, she clearly saw that humanity broke down there. And she realized in a situation where, it was life and death, people would get trampled. And, there's no joke anymore. Queuing is serious.
There you go. You can already see the emotions are running high. When we said, let's talk about queuing this week on the podcast, you said, I've got a great example.
Yes,
so
I've got so many.
Again.
They've been running through my head all day because I was like, which one?
Give me one.
Okay. Then I remembered something so shocking that happened to me at the end of December in terms of queuing. Right. It's a good example as well because I think there are lots of queue violations in this situation. Deep breath. So, I was at a Christmas market with a group of people. And at the Christmas market, you often get a mug, which you have to give back after you've drunk your drink. And you get a little deposit coin where you're going to get your money back.
So there's no rubbish.
Yeah. Well, so it's more environmentally friendly. And also you lose money if you don't take the mug back because some people like to keep the souvenirs. Anyway, that's a different topic. So there's quite a big queue to take back the mugs.
Yeah.
Point one. we joined the queue, and then some people who weren't in my group stood next to us, jumping people in the queue behind me. And I said, we're in the queue here. And they just looked at me and were like, shrugged their shoulders. And I was like, we're in the queue. What are you doing? They just looked at me and I was like, what? What are they doing?
You violated one Swiss principle, not complaining in a queue.
Yeah, but you don't violate the queue. You can't just jump, point one, and if someone calls you out on it, you have to say sorry and get to the back of the line.
Yeah.
But so shamelessly just to be like, yes, we've jumped the queue and we don't care. I've just never, this is so impolite. I just can't understand how people can do that.
Right. Let's come back to the very beginning.
I'm getting angry now. And sorry, but one thing we haven't mentioned yet is that queuing is just not properly ingrained in Swiss culture. This happens so often that people just gather in a sort of big group and jostle to the front. And not just that, you're in a queue and people start a new queue to support their ideology of just joining in whenever they want.
True.
This
It's a democracy.
Insane.
It's a queue
That's
democracy.
so undemocratic, though.
Anyway, I read on Reddit
Yeah.
a topic about, because someone said, what's all this queuing in Switzerland?
Oh, yeah.
What happens here?
Right.
And then there was someone, a Swiss person, explaining, and I thought it's actually quite an interesting explanation. Obviously it was a funny way of explaining. And
So they weren't seriously defending the law?
No. I think everyone in Switzerland would agree that we can't queue.
Not these? Oh,
Yeah,
right. I see,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, fine.
So that person replied and said, Switzerland is a country where people want to have as much freedom as possible. Mm-hmm. And they also don't want to have any rules that aren't absolutely necessary. Whereas if there are rules, then they will strictly follow them.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and that's why wherever possible, no one would just make a rule for a queue, because no one wants to make rules for someone else to tell them how they should do things. But if there are rules that there is a queue, then Swiss people can queue. But then it must be very clear, very strict rules. Like there must be a line on both sides where it says, only one person can join this queue, and
I see what you mean.
No skipping, and then people will follow this clear rule. But we don't have these instructions, and so there is no rule, so people come and they just make up their own rule. They just, queue wherever.
I hate
this. Is obviously not exactly true,
No,
but I thought that is kind of how it is.
I understand what he's saying there. If there were a sign up on the wall at the Christmas market that said, stand in single file between these lines, then I guess people would follow it. But, this is an unwritten rule. That's not in the Constitution in the UK. Not that we have a written Constitution.
Yeah.
It's nowhere written down.
Yeah.
But we all have come to an understanding that that makes life work. Because otherwise arguments break out, it's unfair, people get angry.
Yes, now we come to the other point. That was I also read this in this same thread on Reddit. It was actually quite funny. I tried to find it, and I can link it in our show notes, because then the discussion went on and on.
I can imagine.
And someone then said, another clear rule is, that's why I'm coming back to this, is so when you're in a queue in Switzerland, it's extremely messy, and everyone's just, stands somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And then you will always have people who skip queues, always. But also Swiss culture is not to complain. So
Incorrect.
You will never see anyone complaining to someone next to and say like, hey, you skipped the queue. That's just really extremely rare.
Not in this person.
Yeah.
If someone skips the queue or violates the queue principle, I'm going to tell them.
I
can't stop myself. It's just not right.
That's the very big difference between British and Swiss queuing culture. I've never in my life told anyone that, I did actually a few weeks ago, didn't I?
Oh, yeah. Things got crazy at Geneva Airport before Christmas. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't have highlighted it with that particular gentleman at that moment, but you're partly British now. You couldn't help yourself.
Anyway, so people wouldn't usually complain when someone skips the queue. But what was fun in this thread, this person wrote something like, so the chance is very high that a Swiss person on your right skipped the queue, and you will just be inside of yourself. You will just say, you effing whatsoever,
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
and so on. And you will politely just smile and say nothing, but you will
God.
be extremely happy about the, whatever nationality is on your left hand side, Brits or Germans or Italians who complain to the other person, why are you skipping the queue?
Yes,
That made me laugh
that's
so
what
much.
happens.
And everyone in the queue would be, oh, this is so embarrassing. And inside they would be like, oh, thank God someone told that person.
Someone freed us.
Yeah.
Someone spoke.
So that made me laugh. And it's true, I think. It explains how Swiss people feel, I think, in a queue.
And you know what else happens in queues? Quite often people are standing so close behind me in a queue, which I cannot stand. That's the second principle
Try
of queuing.
to skip queues without the possibility of skipping.
Right, they squash up against you.
Yeah.
And in that circumstance, I always turn around and say, can you move back, please?
Yeah.
So many times this happens. Why are you standing so close to me? You will not get there quicker. You're only going to try and get inside my rucksack or something, which neither of us want.
Yeah. That's just exactly true.
Man, this is annoying.
And also, I think there are different types of queues. It really depends. So I've got a few questions for you. You tell me, is there a queue or is there not a queue? Or
you mean should there be or should there not be?
no, is there in Switzerland a queue in this?
Will we find a queue?
Yes.
Okay.
So, or rate this queue from 1 to 5.
And 5 is perfect and 1 is terrible?
Yes. Skiing.
Oh, 500.
No.
1 minus 1 million.
Yeah, that's a 1.
Skiing is terrible. And you know why? It's because people are armed.
Yeah.
They've got heavy boots on and clanky sticks,
and
so they can
stand
poke
on
each
each
other with
other's-
them.
yeah,
they can poke people out the way of their skis and their sticks. And they've got helmets on, so they're proper ready for action.
I've never seen that happening.
That's what they do.
But
They shove and push and clank and,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, did I poke
I
you
think-
with my stick?
the biggest problem is, and that's what Susie Levine also said, and I fully agree, is
Back in
that
the
there
day.
is no organization. There is just a wheel where you have to cross through, and then there's nothing. If there would be at least, like lines, then people would go into these lines a little bit. It wouldn't be perfect, but much better. Like this, it's just a big blob. And the big blob says to Swiss people, there are no rules. That means you can do whatever you think is best.
I mean, yes and no, because at this point, the basic principles would come into play. I'm not saying British people are perfect by no means. In a mass crowd, people are also pushing and shoving. But
yes, but that's what I'm saying. We don't have the British culture. That's why we need a queuing system. If someone at his office or their ski lift or their whatsoever want to have a proper queue, they need to have a system.
Yeah.
Then the Swiss people will roughly follow it because we don't have the queuing culture. It just doesn't exist. It does not exist. Also not the people by people punishment. As we found out, people don't point other people out if they skip queues.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So we've got 1 for ski lift.
Yeah.
How about boarding a train?
Oh, that's also a minus 1 million. That's
It's not as bad as a ski lift, though, is it?
Well,
People
they
at least
don't
wait
have
a
skis,
little
but they
bit
often
and then-
have hiking poles.
I would say it's a 2 to 3. It's not so bad. It's a blob outside, but people wait.
You know why it's bad? Because this is what happens in the Swiss queues. People take advantage of weaknesses. And if you stand to the side properly so that people can get off the train, someone will stand in front of you because they think you've left a gap and therefore they can stand in it. There was no gap. I'm just standing
It's
back so
true.
people can get off.
You're right. Queuing to board a plane.
I think that seems to function quite well. I'd call that like a 5.
Yeah, because there are clear rules.
Yeah. People get called up and then they just
and they're
stand
not
in the
worried
line
of
and
not
they go
getting
through.
on the plane as well.
True, yeah.
And they can't win time if they get on earlier.
I've never seen trouble there, really.
There you go. How about queuing in a big shop with lots of people?
That's a 1. This is always trouble. That's where the new queues start.
Yeah.
There's one big queue for all the checkouts and someone starts a new queue directly at
exactly
checkout
what
number
happens.
5. And it's like, no, there's no queue there. Don't start your own queue.
This is exactly what happens.
And they're all sort of just not looking at you like, yeah, I'm doing absolutely the right thing here, making my own queue. No, you're not.
Yeah. How
Incorrect.
about a post office where you get a ticket with a number on?
Oh, well, that's perfect, but it feels unsafe because people are standing in a gigantic crowd, but everyone's got their moment, so it's no problem.
Yeah, so it's a 5.
Yeah.
The clear rules, it's a 5.
Yeah.
Now we are coming to, I think, where Swiss people can queue. I think, but give me your number. A small shop with a small queue. Very personal.
Think of when I've been in a small
think
queue.
of a bakery. Small bakery with three people in it.
3 people are there. Yeah, that's getting a 5 from me because then people can see each other and make an eye contact. It's not so many
It's
of you.
personal.
And then they're all, oh, would you like to go? And you're not, no, you were here first. You go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this rounds the circle. This
completes the circle.
To this Reddit, because I also read it there. And someone said if it's very personal and people could be, pointed out as impolite or something, you basically already know each other because there's only 3 people there. Then they're not impolite.
Yes.
They will say like, oh yeah, exactly how you say. They will be like, oh no, you are first. Oh, weren't you there first?
Yeah. Oh, would you like to go?
Exactly. So
that's so true.
Yeah. Ugh. So I found that very funny that we've got like different types of how bad a queue is, depending on the situation of the rules, how personal it is, and so on. Because, someone said, it feels like sometimes there are rules and sometimes there aren't. And that's basically how it is, I think.
Yeah.
It's so true. Do you want to have any last words for the Swiss queuing system?
Oh, wow. What can I say? I mean...
there might be some Swiss listening.
Only that I am also Swiss now. So the queuing culture is infiltrating.
Yeah, it's improving.
You're welcome.
With every new
You're welcome.
Person becoming Swiss, it's improving.
That's right.
Right. It's time for our Swiss word, learning Swiss with Swiss and chips. And I found the word, but I was not 100% sure if we already have it. I keep a list where I write down all the words we said so far, and it's not on it, but it feels like I had to somehow try to explain it before. So I'll say it, and you tell me if we already talked about it.
Okay, don't do that thing that we used the word for a few weeks ago, which I can't remember anymore.
Leren.
Yeah, don't leren.
Yeah,
listen to our last
jabber.
episode if you don't know what that means.
The word is Hundsverlochete.
Ooh, no, we definitely haven't had this. It's like holes made by a dog.
It's not exactly wrong.
That's the literal translation, but I have not got the focused idea.
It's completely wrong,
what that
but
means.
the words are somehow...
Does it mean dog-eared? Do you know what dog-eared is?
No.
Here we go.
Now we move in circles. See, we came back in a circle and now we move in a circle.
Okay, quick diversion for you. Dog-eared. A book can be dog-eared.
Oh, yeah.
If it's very loved and, the pages are sort of slightly crumpled on the corner. Dog-eared.
That's like donkey ears.
Folded. Is that a donkey ear in German?
Yeah.
When the pages are sort of folded over?
Yeah, donkey ears. Right.
No, I don't know what this means.
Hundsverlochete is burying... Well, verlochen is...
Making a hole?
No, bury something, to bury.
Yeah.
It's quite a rude word for burying a dog. And
right.
the literal translation. But it means... Hundsverlochete means event, like a random nonsense event. So, for example, a parent, not that I speak out of experience or that my parents ever said to my sisters, don't join every Hundsverlochete. And they said, I also want to go to this party and I also want to go here and here and here. I said, yeah, you really have to go to every Hundsverlochete, don't you?
Okay. And a non-parental example of this?
If you ask me to go to this event and that event and the other event, and then there is a party on Saturday, and I say, I don't really want to go to every Hundsverlochete.
Does it only relate to events?
Yes, because it's a classic event, a Hundsverlochete. No, it's a dog's funeral. It's an event.
I see. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Does it apply to meetings?
Ooh, I wouldn't use it.
No?
No.
Okay, just checking.
No, it doesn't. Also not out of experience? Or?
No.
Okay.
Just checking for a friend.
It doesn't apply for meetings, and it's also extremely informal.
Got it. Noted.
Let's go back. Let's circle back to the scale of 1 to 5. If 5 is extremely rude and 3 is already swearing, then it's a 2.8.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. I'm deleting from my memory.
It's not swearing, but it's, close enough. All right. That was it for this week.
Cool, thanks. And if you have had a Swiss queue violation in your life, please do let us know so I know I'm not alone in this quest for better queuing.
Yeah, comment on our website. Thanks for listening.
Bye.